Bang! Neeves Knives, I'm Jared, and today we are checking out a new urban EDC model. They're known for doing incredible stuff, and this one is no exception. This is the NITROGLIDE. Now, they're calling this a semi-integral, and I see what they mean. So it is a clamshell construction where both pieces also equal the back spacer, but it is technically two pieces. But if you look, they're countersunk, or they're sunk inward. So they go like this, which is pretty unique. Typically, you don't really see that. It does have this bronze titanium frame lock. Now, here's the thing. We're going to go through everything on this knife, but this one right here is an exclusively pre-order only. You can pre-order it now until the 31st. And if you do, you also save money, but this is the only one that I believe will be open for pre-order. There is a few other options like DLC options, other finishes, color options, but the price, you know, it does vary depending on which model and everything. I'll try to put some of that information up on the screen, but this one, the bronze hand satin, is one that is for pre-order only. Okay, so this one would be $269, but it would normally be $300, and then like the DLC ones are $325 or $330, something like that, right around there. So, you know, that gives you an idea of the price ranges, but like I said, you save money if you get this one with the pre-order. But we have a MagnaCut deep hollow ground Warncliffe blade shape. I love it. Almost a poon right there, just almost, but not quite. But it is a beautiful blade shape that gets down to a very, very slicey edge. Nicely thinly ground, beautiful hand satin, and we have a nice choke up spot right there. Very, very comfortable. In my opinion, I do feel the weight from the titanium, you know, especially since it's, you know, pretty much solid. But, it, you know, it's a slim knife, and it does not have any milling on the inside, but just being slim does kind of bring down the weight quite a bit. You can see some of the details inside there. Not sure if you'll pick it up on the camera, but access to the lock bar is really good. Now, they said the production versions are going to be even smoother, but I like this the way it is. I mean, I'm sure even smoother would be, you know, possibly even better for some people, but this has such a nice, it is a couple shake drop, but it's very, very smooth because this is a prototype, but the action is phenomenal. Love, love, love this front flipper. This is the kind of front flipper we all want right here. And then also, because the blade hangs out so much and it's a hollow grind, this is very easy to reverse flick off the blade. You know, I'm just basically using the side of my finger, not straightforward, even though I can technically do it like that, but using the side of your finger gives you even more leverage. Very snappy, very, very snappy. But about the smoothness, it wouldn't matter to me if it did, if, you know, the production versions were smoother or not, but they're going to be. But personally for me, like, look at how it just drops. I mean, I can tell that the detent ball, once it breaks in, this thing is going to be probably fall shut. For sure it's going to be. You know, it's just after, you know, after you flicked it and opened it and used it, you know, the lock bar's tension lightens up slightly, like not enough to create play or anything, but, you know, lightens up slightly, and the detent, you know, breaks itself a track in the blade, making it much, much smoother over time. And I kind of like that. I like knives breaking in, but a lot of people love it right out of the box, you know, kind of fall shutty. Not sure if it'll be quite that smooth, but here is a sheet showing the internals, and you can see it is riding on double row or multi-row ceramic caged bearings. Love to see that. It's going to add more stability in the pivot and also have a nice smooth action. As you can see all the measurements and everything. See, it's a D-shaped pivot. I like that they added this. This is a nice little touch to really check everything out, so I don't have to take it apart or anything. So very, very cool. But anyways, the front flipper though, see how high it sits up there? It sits up there so high that even for left-handed people, to me, I don't think you'd ever have an issue. I'm not even good at front flippers with my left hand, but one like this is just so incredibly easy. But the clip is not reversible. At least I don't think it is. No, I don't think so. But Good access to the lock bar. Nice little chamfer right there, so it is easy to drop down. And if you wanted to, if you were scared of it dropping down, even though it does land in a safe spot, you know, some people are still scared of that. Well, you can control it because you have the front flipper right there. So you technically can control it. The front flipper's jimping is nice and sharp. Well, relatively sharp. It's good for this front flipper. I do typically like a jimp right there on that corner and on top, because I like to, when I do the reach over, I want it to work. But this one just has so much leverage that you would think it was. Like, you know, I don't know if I would, if my eyes were closed, I don't know if I would notice a difference, even if they did add the jimping. It's that good. It does have a steel lock bar insert, as you can see, and a spring pocket clip that works great. The spring pocket clip does land on top of the lock bar relief. Kind of wish they would have put that on the inside, but it doesn't bother the, you know, it hasn't bothered my pockets. So I guess it can't be that big of a deal, right? All in all, you know, because of the blade shape and everything, this is going to be a utility beast. The manipulation in the hand that you can get with this thing is incredible. Because of the handle heavy, or the heavy side being the handle, as you can see, it is very handle heavy. The balance point is right there. So I guess, you know, it's pretty much even, but, you know, if, to me, the handle, because I like to choke up to here, not back here. Personally, for this one, that's me though. But because of that, the handle sits in my hand, so I never really fear the blade dropping forward like that. Like, so it's always like in a pinch grip. It just, to me personally, it's a phenomenal user. And because of the geometry, it slices like a champ. The the stop pin is the scales right there. And then there is technically, you can see, well, maybe you can't see, but you see how it's like kind of, the back spacer goes like this, and then there's like a spot machined right there, which acts as the stop pin in the closed position. Now that does hit here. Now, I'm not going to bitch about that because it would take so much steel to remove to get to there. That's a lot of life. And by then, the tip would be hanging out of the handle. So that is not a big deal to me. Sorry, guys. But that's not a big deal to me. I'm not really worried about the stop pin in this case. So this one definitely is a pass, but companies need to make sure that they don't put the stop pin too close to the edge. Now, one other thing is that companies need to be careful for is the tip. And somebody else brought this to my attention. Like, by the time you sharpen that much steel out, the tip's going to be hanging out. And like, I'm thinking, like, actually, you're right. Not saying on this model, but on another model, we talked about the stop pin placement. But this one, you can see I can kind of get the tip, but I got to try. So I'm not saying you're gonna glaze it or anything like that. Plus, if it's in the pockets like this, so you're going this way. But I'm just saying you're not gonna have any troubles with the tip right now. But if you remove that much steel to where you were hitting that stop pin, it definitely would be up. It'd be poking out of the top. So, you know, companies need to be careful for that too. You want to leave some sharpening. You need plenty of room for me to remove, you know, at least like a 1/4 inch of steel off of the blade. And this one's definitely pushing that limit. So by the time you sharpen off 1/4 inch, you will be touching the tip. But that's a lot of life. I don't even know if people realize how much life that is. I don't think the overwhelming majority of people that buy this will never, ever get to that point with this knife. You know, it's not like you're going to be sharpening this thing 2 times a week, right? That would take probably 50 sharpenings, if not more. I don't even know, probably more than that. And, you know, I don't even know if I have a knife that I've sharpened 50 times in my collection. Maybe. No, there's no way. There's no way. Absolutely no way. Maybe 20 times, but Magna Cut is supposed to be, I believe, 62 to 63. I'd prefer it to be 63 to 64, but I'm not going to bitch about 62 to 63. We typically want 63 to 64 because there's always a fluctuation, you know, where they could be off by a point, and 62 to 63 means it might go down to 61, right? 63 to 64, if they do hit 62, 62.5, you're still in a good range, right? That's typically what we try to get from the companies is at least have your fluctuation area within the range of what we would want, which I have no doubt that this one's not going to be. It's probably just fine. It's probably really going to be 63, 64. That's what most of the companies are doing right now anyways, but it is labeled 62 to 63, which as long as they land there, that's still adequate. But yeah, man, this spot right there choking up, you know how slicey it is. This blade from the geometry is definitely going to be a cutting champ. And, you know, its edge retention will go up. Like, a lot of benefits will come out of a blade like this. You got a good plunge grind, you know, you have plenty of sharpening life. You know, as long as you don't sharpen too much and it comes out of the handle, but I don't think that's going to happen to anybody for a very, very, very long time. Unless if you're using a belt grinder, which don't do that. That'll remove way too much material too fast. TA hardware all the way around. Love to see that. And yeah, man, it's just a sweet piece. They do such a good job. I think, personally for me, I think this is an attractive knife. I think it's a fun knife. Like, the action is a lot of fun. You know, just pretty much everything about it. Definitely my style of a knife. Of course, I wish it had other deployments, a secondary deployment, but because the reverse flick off the blade is so easy with this one, I know some people struggle with that, but like I'm struggling for the thumb flick, but that's because I'm locking myself out over here. Once I take that finger and I use it for the reverse flick, it's fine. So I would imagine that the majority of people are going to have no problem doing a reverse flick off the blade on this for a secondary deployment. I bet I can even do it. Maybe not. Yeah, I hit that damn lock. Oh, there we go. But pretty much hitting the lock. By the way, I always have everything linked down in the description for you guys. So if you guys want to get one of these, or you want to pre-order it, or want to check out anything else on Urban EDC, check out the link down in the description. It'll take you right there and you can check it out. Like I said, this one is a pre-order one. You can save some money now. Instead of waiting for the, you know, drop. But if you do wait for the drop, you're going to pay a little bit more, but then there are going to be some other options for you. But there you guys go. Work hard, stay tough. Until next time, peace.